I'm Rachel from Miss Daisy Sewing, and this is Missy, and today we're going to talk about tea and dragons. So last year for my birthday, I was gifted the Tea Dragon Society box set. The story's wonderful, the artwork's beautiful. Just to get straight to the point, I want my own tea dragon. There are different kinds of tea dragons. I'm really quite enamoured with Peppermint here. So that's the plan, is that we're going to make ourselves a Peppermint dragon. To do that, I'm going to use the Simplicity 8715 dragon pattern as a base. As you can see, I have used this pattern before. This is the sort of size and shape you get from it. I made this one with sort of leather and suede. Don't recommend. Turned out beautifully, but my goodness, I lost a few needles, let's just put it that way, on the machine. These are great because they are actually sort of designed to ride on your shoulder. It's a lovely pattern. So I'm going to use this as a base, but I do want a larger dragon, so we're going to scale it up and change a couple of things to make it look more like the Peppermint dragon in the book. So once I'm done giving this one some cuddles here, we'll pick up on how we plan to do this and get started. In the meantime though, should we just have a cuddle? Yes. Yes.
I suppose I should very quickly disclose that this is not sponsored or paid for or anything like that. This is literally a love song project. As I've already said, I wanted to scale the pattern up, so here I am getting all the pieces scanned in, trying to make sure that they are right side down. After that, I then scaled the pattern up to 150% and printed them out. And here I'm sort of trying to reassemble them all again. Some parts I had to scan twice owing to the size of them. And here's everyone's favourite part of a PDF pattern, taping it together before we cut everything out again. At this point I was able to sort of get a rough idea on how big the final dragon was going to be.
So we can see the basic shape is kind of similar to this dragon, the Simplicity 8715. So quite happy to keep the body part the same. That's terrible. And the head shape as well, although this has a higher sort of skull, so I might try and exaggerate that up a little bit. It's terrible, ignore. Key things are going to be slightly different is, although I'm going to use the legs in this pattern, what I'm going to do is sort of cap them off and then use some pipe cleaners to give me those toes and just make it a little bit more posable. And I've got some brown wool for that. I'm also not going to use the horns from this pattern. I'm going to put little tiny buds in, although I am going to use the fluffy tail. So we'll still have that little tuft there, and I've got fur that I'll be using for the belly, which I might shave here, but leave long there just to give this sort of shape again. I'm going to have to design some ears. So the seams are on the back and along the top, so I think that kind of attachment for the ear will look really cute. I want them really oversized, and then after that I'll make some little leaves to go on him, and again I'll put the fur on the inside of the ear here to get that fluffy. I will be doing this in a lighter blue and then adding on the decorative spots afterwards, probably by hand, just because it would be the easiest way to do it.
There's a fine art to cutting fur where you have to really gently snip at the back and not cut the actual fibres. So this part probably took me just as long, if not longer, than cutting all of the rest of the pieces. The most important part of the making process, besides having the tea, is for Missy to have a lie down on everything. Isn't that right, sweetie? Yes. We're gonna go for a walk? Let's go for a walk. And then the next part is the assembling. I just followed the instructions from the Simplicity pattern. The fur was a little challenging to sew. I was trying to keep all of the threads sort of out of the seam, but in the end sort of ended up picking them out with the brush there to try and get it nice and fluffy again. I like to save the final body for last, just because that's the moment where it really does start to feel like the dragon is coming together. So here I am shaving the fur. I wanted to keep the sort of chest much thicker and then sort of thin out the belly fur. And then on to stuffing the body, which took quite a significant amount of stuffing, as you can imagine with the size of it. I also had to get creative in how to get that stuffing down to the bottom of the tail there, so I used a spirtle and a knitting needle. This was the moment where I could really see it coming to life, attaching the head here. Then it was getting the legs on, and eventually that nice fluffy tail, at which point I really started to feel it was looking like Peppermint. The feet here were a bit of a battle. It took me way longer than I actually expected to get these little tiny legs and toes on. And then once I was happy with the shape of the feet, I sort of sketched out a template and then sewed up little tiny toes.
He's got like little tiny gloves and booties. I need to add the face still. I need to design the ears. That'll be the next steps. Designing the ears. So I'm going to finish off the wrists and then design some ears for his face and add the little horns as well. But yeah, pleased with him so far. He's really quite cute, and it's a nice size actually. That's the sort of roughly the coming together. So yeah.
And now we're at the point of making this dragon an actual tea dragon. So here I am designing some ears, sort of making a rough shape out of paper before I commit to getting them cut and then sewn. This is also the part where the hand sewing really does begin. I initially tried a ladder stitch with this, but the fleece is so soft and fluffy you couldn't see it, so I just swapped to a whip stitch in the end. For the eyes, I used 2 buttons and just wrapped them with black felt, and then added a little embellishment of a white spot just to give a little bit more life to them. These peppermint leaves were the part I was actually most anxious about, because I knew they would sort of make or break the design. I used some pinking shears just to cut up the rough sort of triangle shapes, and then to attach them onto the body I basically tied like knots, almost like how you would do a sort of friendship braid, to sort of stack them with those sort of leaves sort of threaded in between to create the height. I won't lie, I was shocked at how effective this turned out. So why tea dragons? Kay O'Neill has created a fantastic little world. It's beautiful, it's inclusive, and it's so delightfully charming. I feel like the concept of memories being sort of collected and shared through the drinking of tea with one another is absolutely delightful and quite unique. As my family's keeper of sort of photography and videos, this really sort of struck a chord with me in a way that's very hard to describe. The characters in the actual story of the books are also really quite fun and very charming, so I really do recommend it as a read without wanting to spoil things. If you've read these books, do you have a favourite tea dragon? And if you haven't read them, I really do recommend them. They are just the perfect length to curl up on the sofa, get cosy with a cup of tea and enjoy. So until next time, have a lovely day.